2,300 years ago, a Greek mathematician carved an ancient spiral shape that moved water uphill using nothing but rotation. That same spiral now sits on rooftops across the Netherlands, generating electricity from winds so gentle they barely move a flag. The Dutch pay only $300, and American homeowners face fines for trying. By the end of this video, you will discover exactly why this technology was erased from American rooftops. Hi, I am Oliver, and welcome to Off-Grid Ohms. Subscribe and hit the bell for more uncovering electrical secrets. It looks nothing like the wind turbines you picture. No towering poles, no massive spinning blades slicing through the sky. Instead, imagine a nautilus shell roughly the size of a bicycle wheel, mounted quietly on the edge of a rooftop in Rotterdam. 3 curved blades wrap around each other in a perfect Archimedes spiral. And that shape changes everything about how wind becomes electricity. Conventional wind turbines work by creating pressure differences between the front and back of flat blades. This device does something fundamentally different. Its 3-dimensional spiral geometry creates lift through the curved surface itself. Wind enters the wide end and gets funneled through a progressively tighter channel. The rotor captures kinetic energy by slowing incoming air to near zero velocity and converting that momentum into smooth rotational force. Independent testing shows it extracts roughly 40% of available wind energy. Most small residential turbines manage 25 to 30%. The theoretical maximum, known as the Betz limit, sits at 59.3%. A device you can hold in your arms achieves nearly 70% of the theoretical maximum physics will ever allow. It is called the LIM F1. Here is the number that rewrites the rules of residential energy. The LIM F1 has a cut-in wind speed of 2.5 meters per second, roughly 5.5 miles per hour, a breeze so faint it barely rustles leaves. At that speed, a conventional small turbine sits completely still. The LIM F1 is already spinning and feeding power into the home. Department of Energy data shows average wind speeds at rooftop height in American suburbs range from 5 to 9 miles per hour. The spiral turbine operates productively in conditions where every other residential option sits idle. Now consider noise. The LIM F1 produces no more than 45 decibels while rotating, the sound of light rainfall on a window. Every argument used for decades to block residential wind power falls apart when the device is essentially inaudible. Noise complaints vanish. Neighbor disputes evaporate. The entire foundation of residential wind opposition crumbles when you cannot hear the turbine running 10 feet below it on your patio. At a modest wind speed of 5 meters per second, the LIM F1 generates approximately 1,500 kilowatt hours per year. The average American home consumes roughly 10,500. One spiral covers 14% of that demand. Install 2 and pair them with a modest solar array, and the electric bill disappears entirely. Homeowners across the Netherlands and Belgium are living this way right now, not as an experiment, as ordinary daily life. But we did not invent this physics. We inherited it from 23 centuries ago. In the 3rd century, before the Common Era, Archimedes designed a helical blade wrapped around a central shaft inside an angled tube. Turned by hand, it lifted water from low ground to high ground, defying gravity through geometry alone. The Archimedes screw transformed irrigation across the ancient Mediterranean, but the concept may be even older. Cuneiform inscriptions from the Neo-Assyrian Empire describe King Sennacherib commissioning bronze water-lifting screws near Nineveh between 704 and 681 BCE. That places the spiral principle at nearly 2,700 years old. The physics contains a truth ancient engineers understood perfectly. If a spiral can convert rotational energy into fluid movement, then fluid movement can convert back into rotational energy. The principle is reversible. Replace water with wind and you have a turbine. In the 1st century, Heron of Alexandria described the first known wind-driven wheel. By the 7th and 9th centuries, engineers in Persia built vertical axis windmills, grinding flour and pumping water. Notice that detail. vertical axis, the same orientation used by the Liam F1. The horizontal axis windmill that dominates the Western imagination came later. In the Netherlands, this knowledge merged into something extraordinary. During the Dutch Golden Age, engineers mounted Archimedes screws onto windmills, creating polder mills. These devices drained entire inland seas, pushing the ocean back and reclaiming dry land using nothing but wind and spiral geometry. The same nation that drained an ocean with wind-powered spirals 400 years ago is now mounting spiral turbines on homes. The engineering lineage stretches unbroken. In 1887, Scottish professor James Blythe built a wind turbine in Marykirk and used it to light his home. 1 year later, Charles Brush constructed a 60-foot turbine in Cleveland, Ohio that powered his mansion for over a decade. By the 1930s, hundreds of thousands of small wind generators dotted the American countryside. America was a wind power pioneer. The Rural Electrification Act brought centralized grid power everywhere. The small turbines came down. The knowledge faded. The technology was not disproven. It was replaced by centralized infrastructure and the corporations that profited from controlling it. In 2003, a Dutch inventor named Marinus Mieremet began working on a turbine that could function in the chaotic, swirling air above city rooftops. His inspiration came from nautilus shell geometry combined with Archimedes' mathematical principles. By 2006, he had founded a company named The Archimedes. Working with Kyo engineer Richard Ruitenbeek, he refined the spiral rotor through hundreds of iterations until they arrived at the Liam F1. The standard model has a rotor diameter of 1.5 meters and weighs approximately 75 kilograms. The entire device contains only 2 moving parts. Compare that to a conventional residential turbine with its yaw motors, pitch controllers, and gearbox assemblies. 3 spiral blades made from glass fiber reinforced composite, a permanent magnet generator, bearings engineered for 250,000 to 300,000 hours of continuous operation. At 8,000 hours per year, that translates to roughly 30 years of clean electricity from a device with 2 moving parts. Because of its conical shape, the Liam F1 automatically swings into the optimal wind direction like a weather vane. No software, no motors, no sensors. Even when wind strikes at 60 degrees off-center, the spiral generates power. This matters enormously on urban rooftops where wind swirls unpredictably around buildings and chimneys, changing direction every few seconds. Conventional turbines stall in turbulent air. The spiral thrives in exactly those conditions. The deployment record across Europe tells a story American regulators do not want homeowners to hear. In Rotterdam, households generated up to 1,500 kilowatt hours per year. Installations followed in Delft and The Hague. In Antwerp, a small business owner installed a Liam F1 alongside solar panels and documented a dramatic drop in electricity costs. Across 14 countries, the Archimedes company has sold over 7,000 turbines. This is not a prototype. This is a proven commercial product generating power on European rooftops right now. A production facility in India offers the smaller model for $1,700 and the standard model for $3,200 before shipping. The raw materials of the spiral rotor total roughly $300. A full installed system in Europe runs between $3,000 and $5,000. Compare that to replacing an air conditioning unit at $5,000 to $12,000. Compare it to a solar array at $20,000 to $40,000. The spiral costs less than both. It runs on fuel that never arrives in a bill. 7,000 installations, verified data. So why can you not mount one on your roof? In America, they made sure you cannot. Most American zoning ordinances cap residential additions at 35 feet. The Liam F1 sits just above roof level, fitting comfortably beneath the limit, but local codes impose additional requirements that make approval nearly impossible. Decibel limits at the property boundary, aesthetic review standards, setback distances. In urban areas, there are outright prohibitions on anything classified as a wind energy device. These codes were written for 60-foot pole-mounted turbines with massive blades. A 1.5-meter silent rooftop spiral is regulated identically to a commercial wind tower. Below the municipal level sits an even more impenetrable fortress. Homeowners associations govern approximately 75 million Americans in over 30% of the housing stock. Many homeowners association covenants explicitly prohibit any exterior energy device that is not a standard solar panel. The moment the word turbine appears on a permit application, the response is automatic denial. It does not matter that the device is virtually invisible or quieter than a refrigerator. The word triggers the covenant, and the covenant triggers the fine. Now consider the actual permit process. Building permit, electrical permit for grid interconnection, structural engineering review, potential Federal Aviation Administration notification, environmental impact assessment in certain jurisdictions, months of paperwork, thousands in fees, all for a device lighter than a washing machine and quieter than a conversation. Meanwhile, a portable gasoline generator belching 85 decibels and pumping carbon monoxide requires 0 permits. In Iowa, 58 of 99 counties have enacted rules specifically limiting wind power. Some function as outright bans behind reasonable-sounding language. Upper limits on turbine numbers are already reached. Setback requirements can be so extreme that no residential parcel could comply. These rules target industrial wind farms but apply with identical force to a silent rooftop spiral. The codes have authors, and those authors have donors. American utilities operate on a guaranteed rate of return. They profit by selling electricity by volume. Every kilowatt hour a homeowner generates is one the utility can never bill for. The average household pays $1,500 to $2,000 annually for electricity. Across 130 million households, that is over $200 billion in annual revenue. A $3,000 device that cuts that bill in half represents an existential threat. The political landscape has worsened. In January 2025, the incoming administration issued executive orders halting permits for new onshore wind projects on federal land and suspending offshore wind leases. A subsequent memorandum froze approvals and loans for wind projects nationwide. Legislative action accelerated the phase-out of wind and solar tax credits. While these measures primarily target commercial wind farms, they send a signal that cascades through every level of government. Local inspectors do not rush to approve your rooftop turbine when federal leadership treats wind energy as something to fight. The chilling effect spreads from Washington through state capitals into county offices and ultimately onto your roof, where nothing gets installed. Contrast this with Europe. In the Netherlands, the Liam F1 ships with 3 integrated safety systems and buyers qualify for government subsidies. Dutch building code provides a clear approval pathway for residential micro wind. German standards treat small turbine integration as a recognized efficiency measure. Belgian homeowners file standard permits and mount devices within weeks. The technology is identical everywhere. The wind blows the same way over a Dutch suburb as an American one. The only variable is which industry had a seat at the table when the building code was written. Here is what they cannot take away from you. The physics works regardless of what any building inspector or HOA board says. The Liam F1 comes in 2 configurations. The Mini features a 0.75 meter rotor with 200 watts of output. The standard spans 1.5 meters, delivering 510 watts at 10 meters per second, 880 watts at 12 meters per second, and 1,500 watts peak at 15 meters per second. System efficiency sits at 45%. Survival wind speed is rated at 35 meters per second. 4 components: spiral rotor assembly, permanent magnet generator, inverter and controller unit for grid tie or battery charging, mounting hardware engineered for rooftop installation. The smaller unit matters strategically. At under $2,000, its size and wattage often fall below thresholds that trigger the most restrictive zoning requirements. Experienced European installers recommend describing the device on permits as an auxiliary power unit rather than ever using the word turbine. Referencing electrical code provisions for small exterior mounted generators rather than wind energy sections can change the regulatory pathway entirely. Review your local ordinances for exemptions based on wattage or dimensions. This is not legal advice, and strategic framing remains entirely your own decision and responsibility. Maintenance is nearly non-existent. 2 moving parts. Bearings rated for 3 decades. No oil changes, no filter swaps, no annual service contracts. The wind shows up every day and does not send a bill. Think about everything you have learned. A spiral shape engineered before the Roman Empire moved water uphill for the pharaohs and drained entire seas for the Dutch. That same geometry now generates silent electricity from a breeze so faint you can barely feel it on your hand. 7,000 units across 14 countries. Verified performance from Rotterdam, Delft, The Hague, and Antwerp confirms what Archimedes understood 23 centuries ago. The spiral captures energy that every other shape wastes. The physics predates every building code on Earth and will outlast them all. The bearings endure 30 years. The wind never sends an invoice. The only question is whether you will reclaim that knowledge or keep writing monthly checks to a utility company for a problem somebody else solved before Rome was founded. If this changed how you think about electricity, subscribe to Off-Grid Ohms with Oliver. Please watch the next video appearing on your screen right now.